Hey, yo, welcome back to AIW's The Card is Going to Change. My name is Ronald Two Legs, and as always, I am joined by Absolute Intense Wrestling owner, John Thorne. What is up, Thorne?
What's up? What's going on? We were supposed to do this yesterday, and you just ghosted me yesterday.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realize. I didn't get home from work till like 9:45.
That's all right. I'll forgive you. Staying up, I was like, oh, he's not gonna reach out to me.
My bad. I don't even know what I did last night. I got home kind of late, and then Tuesday is a rough one. I usually work till like 9:30, so sometimes it's tough. But we're here. It is a show week. Absolute Intense Wrestling presents Cultivate 2 this Friday at the Roxy at Mahall's. How are you feeling about this week?
Terrible.
Yeah, that's what the consensus was. I was gonna let you say it, but we had apprehensions about the last one and after the last one and how it sold, and now it seems like we have less tickets sold this time. It seems, right? Or we don't really know because we don't get a count or anything, but just based on how many people have said they've sold what, it doesn't sound too great.
Yeah, not sounding too good for Friday.
I thought maybe adding Heath in there would be, the spice we needed to kind of get a little, more crowd in there than the last time. But yeah, I'm not sure what. I
don't know. I think it's just becoming tough to do wrestling and entertainment right now. We had a very bad winter. I don't know. The business seems a little less engaging than it was maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I think it's kind of cooling down a little bit. I've been talking about that a little bit on this podcast. So yeah, like for a situation like Friday, unless like the local talent is really going out of their way to promote and try to get people through the door, it's really a tough sell to get people to just come out cold to see, indie wrestling. And, another thing that I talked about when I had people over for my house for the Royal Rumble, I believe, is just the fan turnover,
Yeah.
We are kind of seeing a turnover in the fan base. There's some people that are there every show still, but that's becoming kind of few and far between.
Yeah,
you used to be able to call out like everybody in the first two rows at every single show. Every single person, and that's kind of changing. You see, somebody, here and there, and then another person is at this show and that show, and so it's kind of, there's a little bit of turnover fan wise, I think, going on as well, which makes it more difficult because you had, again, let's say the first two rows came to every AIW show for like 3 years, right? It's, I don't know, probably 100 tickets right there. So, that's like your jumping off point for like every show.
Yeah, which is not a bad number to start. If you figure we can at least sell 100, then go from there, things aren't so bleak.
Right, but that's just not happening anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know I mentioned it on this podcast before, but, I did post it on the AIW social media that we are going to be taking a hiatus. It's going to be, probably like 2-ish months. And hopefully that could rejuvenate the fan base, motivate the fan base. Because, I don't know, I don't know. I think we're still putting on really good cards and really good shows and keeping things fresh and using different talents and things like that, and the meet and greets and stuff, but it's just, I don't know, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to get people through the doors, and it's just I don't know. It's typically like something that I can kind of put my finger on, and other than like the business just kind of cooling down, I don't know really what it is. And like that's why I wanted to start doing the Cultivate shows, because I did feel like there's going to be a shift. But like if we can get the new kids and the up and coming talent to like really push the shows and kind of like find an additional base of fans, then we can combine everything together. I thought it would be a good kind of synergy that we can create between and bridge that gap between the regular AIW fans and then these new fans coming in. And it just seems like a lot of the old AIW fans are they can't come to every single show anymore. I understand life happens, people are getting older, and then the new fans are not being created, so it puts us kind of in a tough spot.
Yeah, and I very much think that it has to do with the students and the promotion of that. We've talked about it before. There's only so much you can do as a promoter. I just, it's been said before especially about Cultivate, the first show, with the students that debuted and relating to the fans and giving the fans a reason to come and see them and engage with the fans and put yourself out there to try and garner the support. And it seems like it's gone even less than that for these newer students.
I also just think we are approaching a moment in time where, I talked about this with Pedro before, he's saying, he's telling me like even at, other shows, that are more family friendly shows, he's like, you're seeing less and less kids at wrestling events.
Yeah.
And, I thought about that and I was like, this isn't really a thing that kids have a chance to get hooked on, anymore. Like when we were kids, it was, you turned on the TV and there it was, like that. Yeah. There's just so much more going on for the youth to care about than wrestling. You know what I mean? Like kids exist in video games now, and, that's the social life happens through, talking with their friends from school on Fortnite and different things, like it's a crazy kind of new world to where like you're not really getting that like lifelong fan anymore, because there's so many more options for kids now that like I don't know that wrestling is top of the priority list anymore. And then from there, it's not going to be a priority when they become adults. And so on. So, I mean, people may think this sounds crazy, but it's my theory.
Yeah. We haven't been doom and gloom on the podcast in a while, so I guess we had it coming. So there's,
I'm not even really doom and gloom. I'm just kind of like, I just think there's, societal shifts going on, and, wrestling is just not the priority for people because they're just not getting exposed to it. And, the same way that they used to, right? And, maybe this is why, WWE is doing things with streamers and, you know what I mean? Like,
that's
and all kinds of stuff like that. They're trying to find that youth, that youth fan. But, as far as we're concerned, it's kind of in a similar fashion with the new students is they just don't have the like big groups of friends and things like they used to, you know what I mean? And I've talked to other people with wrestling schools who, same deal. They said, forever, a person had their first match, place would be packed, and like, they've seen a decline, on that across the board. So it's not just happening here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, looking forward to this card. I do think it's a strong card. You know what I mean? We talked about Cultivate 1, Cultivate 2. We added some names. You said add a little firepower to it. We're bringing in Heath this time. I'm super excited to have Heath back.
Were you throwing to me there?
Yeah. I was going to get your thoughts on Heath and bring him in, kind of a name like that.
I thought you just had more to go. You're like, we're super excited about having Heath back.
Sorry, I thought I was gonna let you kind of expound on that, bringing in a bigger name. As far as like I said, I thought maybe that would kind of bring the gas power to get some fans out an ex-WWE name. You know what I mean? He was there for a long time, but yeah, I'm not sure.
And maybe it will. Sure. Maybe it will. I don't really. Again, it's not like, at Globe, they will send me like a weekly, report. Mm-hmm. The Roxy doesn't do that. So you're kind of flying blind. The only thing that I can gauge it on is like premium seating. And, as of last week, there were still front row seats. As of this week, there were still second row seats. So, those are now gone. So, like, when it's selling, there's only 2 rows of premium seating and they're selling slow, that kind of, is a good indicator that, not a lot of people are going to this ticketing website, guaranteeing that they get a seat. So, that's kind of what I'm basing it off of.
The Roxy is a good walk-up show, though. All the other shows we've had there, we've had decent numbers, for walk-up. It's supposed to be nice weather, so, that could be the possibility. You could see a pretty big walk-up on Friday. At least I'm hoping so. I mean, like I said, the card is stacked. We got a lot of names you don't see on every show. We got 2 debuting students. We got Nick Ando coming back from High Seas. You got Country Air coming in again. Tell me a little bit more about this tag team, the PACT. I know Uncle Chase, but who's the other person on the side of that tag team? Tell me more about the PACT.
So the PACT was in AIW many, many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. They were formerly known as Team Beyond, Zane Silver and Chase Burnett. They've both since kind of gone through some character changes. Zane Silver took quite a few years off of wrestling, and then recently started training under Alex Shelley again and getting himself back kind of in ring shape, and they've started doing some shows again around Michigan. Zane and Chase were once, super, kind of high-end indie prospects. They both did an Evolve show back in the day. Like, they were booked for Evolve. They did Beyond Wrestling. They did AIW. They were kind of getting out there and doing a lot of stuff. So both super talented guys. Again, Chase Burnett never really stopped for all that long. Zane Silver took a considerable amount of years off, and started training, I would say, in the last year or so under Alex Shelley, and different people trying to get himself back in the game. So they're going to be coming back. They were a very, very, very exciting tag team to watch. Anybody that's familiar with Uncle Chase, you can think very similar if you've never seen Zane Silver before. I'm trying to think, I couldn't even tell you the last time they were in AIW. It has to be probably 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
This is like West Park Party Center era AIW stuff. So it's been quite some time, but that's what Cultivate is really all about, is it's not necessarily just about getting AIW students on, but it's about getting, kind of underseen, under platform talent, on shows, and letting them kind of go loose. That's what I like about Cultivate is, just kind of like, there's not a lot of story drivers on the show, not a lot of, anything else other than we're just putting people out there and telling them to go wild and try to make a connection, make an impact with the crowd. And, if they do well, it's going to create more opportunities for them on the regular AIW shows. At this point, I don't know that there's going to be another Cultivate. I mean, again, we could be, like you said, shocked by the walk-up on Friday, but, we'll see. But the PACT, like I said, formerly known as Team Beyond. If you want to try to find some of their old stuff, I'm sure there's tons of stuff up on YouTube. The old Beyond Wrestling matches are of theirs are probably still up on YouTube, so I would definitely tell you to seek those out. But super talented guys, and again, just that's the whole point of Cultivate, is giving not only AIW students but just under platformed wrestlers from all over a place.
Speaking of that, and speaking of going wild, to pinpoint a specific match here, this one is one that I'm really excited for. You got Cheech taking on Danny Orion, taking on Dex Royal, taking on Shimbashi. Now you got a guy like Danny Orion coming back. He was on that first Cultivate show. A lot of people were really high on Danny Orion. He goes out there and goes wild, like you said. He gets invited back. Dex Royal, a guy we haven't seen in a long time who can certainly go wild. Shimbashi, a guy that's been climbing, the AIW ranks. A lot of people big high on Shimbashi. And then you got a guy like Cheech, who's been around forever and is an endless book of wrestling knowledge. This four-way is going to be a banger. I can't wait for this one.
Cheech tweeted, he says he hopes he makes a good impression on Friday.
I love Cheech. He's the best.
But yeah, I think to speak on the Cheech thing, and this goes the same for Nick Ando being there and some others. It's you also want to mix in some very high talented veterans under this card as well. You know what I mean? You need people that can provide feedback, especially to all these young up and coming wrestlers. It's additional resources for them. Colin Delaney is coming and he's going to agent the whole show again. Something we don't even do on main AIW shows. But Colin's going to come and he's going to help all these young talents out, and that's part of the reason why Cheech is also going to be there. He's getting in there with three very young, hungry talents. Shimbashi is, he's a guy that's, you've seen him on main AIW shows, really kind of developing a good connection with the fans. Like you said, Danny Orion went crazy. If you didn't see the last Cultivate, Danny Orion and Shimbashi went absolutely bonkers at the last Cultivate, and a lot of people wanted to see Danny Orion back. And then, you have Dex Royal, who hasn't been seen in the AIW for quite some time, but I thought this was a perfect way to kind of reintroduce him and, see what he's been up to for these last couple months.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, that one's gonna be awesome. Speaking of Nick Ando, a guy tag team High Seas that's been around a little bit. Nick Ando gonna come in and do some singles action against Shawn Mason, a guy who's been back. He took some time off. He's been back here. We got Shawn Mason back on the card. This is gonna be a great match. You got a vet like Nick Ando who's been around for a long time. Does great work. Getting in there with a guy like Shawn Mason who has an extremely high upside. This is gonna be extremely beneficial. A great test for Shawn Mason, a huge test for him with Nick Ando, but also just gobbling up information. I'm excited for this match big time.
You know who didn't take time off?
Who's that?
Cloudy, because he didn't want to take the day off work to come take the booking. So
I was curious. I know Cheech is doing singles action because Colin has been injured, but yeah, well, I was curious. Cloudy not in the card, huh?
High Seas was initially on the blueprint, but Cloudy just couldn't take the day off of work. So Nick Ando is going to be entering the realm of a singles performer this Friday night. But again, another very talented guy who's been around the block, years and years of experience. It's just having guys like that are going to, like I said, going to be an asset to the show, the locker room on Friday. And Shawn Mason is a guy who has not worked with a lot of people outside of the AIW system, throughout his career. So this is going to be a big test for him getting in there, with a wily veteran like Nick Ando, and, seeing what he can do. Again, Shawn Mason has, a ton of upside, a ton of, just a ton of potential that needs to be kind of, brought out of him. And I thought, the perfect way to try to do that is to put him in there with, a veteran, a person who's never been in the ring with, to really test him and see, because, he took quite a bit of a hiatus himself. So, we're just kind of, and that was the nice thing about establishing Cultivate. And again, maybe it turns out very well on Friday and we can add more of them, but it gives people like a Shaw Mason who, had to take time off, a chance to kind of get back in the mix and, see what happens. And I think, it's certainly going to be a big test for him. And I think, he also has, a good fan base,
Yeah.
They had some people come out last time. There were times where Shaw was, pulling 50, 60, 70 people. So, I think he's trying to get back into the mix as well. And, again, everybody, even the people that are on a regular basis, they want to be on those Globe Iron cards. They want to be on those, in those, main show big spots. And, that's kind of the purpose of Cultivate too, is kind of, give people those reps, give people those opportunities. And, you just never know who's going to, show up and show out. And I certainly think Shawn Mason wants to be that person.
Absolutely. Speaking of some more out-of-town talent, we got Country Air coming in to take on Bax, Vic Weiss and Zay Garcia. Country Air, a team we've seen a decent amount of times in AIW, but big fans of Country Air, like what these guys do, but somebody you don't see on every AIW card. So it's nice to get them in there. Some veterans. I don't know, they've been around forever, but they've been around a little bit, so it's nice to see Bax get in there with some vets that can, certainly knows their way around a tag team for sure, Country Air.
Yeah, I'm not sure, how long they've been around. I don't think they're, they have years and years and years into the business, but I think they're both fairly young guys themselves, but extremely talented. I'm a huge fan of Country Air. I think there's a ton of upside for those guys. I saw them at a Black Label tryout show in Chicago.
Yeah, I remember that.
A few years ago, in the same place where I saw Dex Royal.
Yeah.
And, those were the people that stood out to me were Dex Royal and Country Air. And it's just kind of funny how slow things can move, especially when we have a wrestling school and, we don't have a lot of spots. But finally, years later, we're able to work Country Air in now, for their second booking in the last couple months, thanks to Cultivate. And I think that these guys are the perfect guys to kind of push Bax to their limits as well. Bax are really trying to establish themselves as a tag team, not only in AIW, but everywhere. And those guys really want to figure out how to become independent wrestling stars and raise their stock. And, same goes for Country Air. So I think that's what's so great about this show is like, you don't have to worry about angles or stories or anything. It's just like it's matchmaking at the end of the day. And I think this is a really good match to make. I think both teams have tremendous upside, and both teams are really going to be looking to go out and deliver. And Bax wants to be in AIW shows, Country Air wants to be in AIW shows. So I think both are going to kind of try to push the envelope a little bit.
That's the thing that's exciting to me about some of these names that are AIW names. Like we said, you're bringing in some out-of-town guys you don't get to see all the time. But for me, the thing that's interesting is these AIW names that you get to see on some cards, but not maybe every card, or maybe they're in a free view here or there. But like I said, like a team like Bax, they want to be on every main AIW card, as high as they can get, yada, yada. But they're a team, and like these other AIW teams who are going to take these shows and really try to show out and show these fans why they, we don't call this a student show per se, whatever, but they're going to try and show out to show these fans why they want to be on these main card AIW rosters.
Yeah, and we didn't really touch on members only who are going to be in there against the PACT. We really just kind of spent time talking about the PACT, but
yeah,
same goes for members only. They are looking, they're looking to push themselves. Another thing that's great about the show is it's like the age-old, sports thing, like creating tape. Like these people want to create tape of themselves that's good quality, high-end pro wrestling. And, nobody's going out there with the intention of, maybe I'll do good, maybe I won't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to go out there and have the best match because there's really no restrictions at all on, what they can and can't do. We tell everybody to just go out there and go nuts. And sometimes that goes good. Sometimes it goes train-wreckingly bad.
You want to be there for both, though, honestly. I mean, that's what it's about.
But that's what makes it exciting, right? Like,
right.
People are going to take some risks. People it's not always going to work. Some matches are not going to have the chemistry. But, members only, again, they are familiar with AIW history. So like when they know, they don't know the PACT, they know Team Beyond. And they were very excited to be in there with, with guys with this kind of history in AIW and independent wrestling as a whole.
Yeah.
By no means were they ever big names, but they were getting out there a little bit many years ago. And, they're looking to do that again in the PACT. So, members only is certainly looking to kind of, and I don't even know if we got to go through every match like this because every match is kind of the same story, right? Like,
yeah.
Every match is everybody's trying to push themselves to have the best match of the night. And, that's really what the whole show boils down to. That's the purpose of it. That's kind of like the whole reason for it.
Yeah. Another one, like you said, the same story. Alonzo Cruz, another guy who just recently debuted, but not many, matches in AIW, taking on Chuck Stone. Alonzo Cruz, a guy who wants to come out and show these AIW fans, that he's a guy that should be on all these cards. Chuck, a guy who's been putting out great matches with everybody he matched up with. So that's going to be another great one. You got a great story, in a recently debuting student. You got Rudy Ray Woods coming back, taking on Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham, coming back from a little hiatus himself.
You want, the return of Dr. Dan. I think this has serious potential. Like,
yeah,
if the one person above and beyond that really answered the bell at the last Cultivate was Rudy Ray Woods. He had fucking people going nuts for him. Like he had his people there.
Oh yeah.
And I believe they're referring to themselves as the Rudy Rowdies.
Yes, I love it.
Somebody said on the AIW Facebook.
That's fantastic. I do know that the Rudy Rowdies are going to be in the house too, because I'm friends with his brother, and I know that he said they're coming out, and I know that he even said this time they were hip. Last time they weren't, as knowledgeable, but he goes, this time we got a handful of front row seats too. He said their handful want to be right up front in that action, so the Rudy Rowdies will be up close and personal this time.
Yeah, and I just think that makes for such a fun atmosphere, but I don't know. There were people saying, how do we get front row to see Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham, which is a statement I never thought that I would read.
I love it. Yeah, I know Dan's got a handful of supporters that I know personally are coming out because they hit me up. Hey, we're going to be at the show. Are you going to be out there? I said, yeah, of course I'll be there. So, yeah, I'm excited for this one. This got the classic makings of like a 50-50 crowd. I'm excited. Rudy Ray had a lot of potential last time. A lot of fireworks out of Rudy Ray. I'm excited for him to see him. See if he can follow that up. That's another thing too that's kind of exciting with the AIW and the Cultivate and these new students is like, you see a guy like Rudy Ray come out, I'm excited to see him follow it up. What's he going to do with this time? You know what I mean? It's to see these guys evolve and, show by show. That's what's so fun to me about independent wrestling. You get to watch these people come up from, from nothing to see if they're going to make something. And it's a fun journey, dude. I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't want to be down on, I don't want to be down on the students or whatever. Like, it's just, and I know that there's a question that we'll get to, but it's just a different than it's ever been before. So it's like, it's a learning curve for even us, at the school, or me as the promoter or owner or the coaches at the school. There's been a bit of a learning curve with just how different the personalities have been from when we've started the school to where we're at now. But it is great, like you said, when you see somebody like Rudy Ray Woods, who kind of really, answered the challenge of, I'm going to get people out there to support me. He was nervous as all hell all day, sweating bullets. The most nervous I think I've ever seen a student pre-debut. Which did not reassure me that he had anybody coming, by the way.
Yeah, you're like, well, shit.
I'm like, this kid is going to have a panic attack. There's no way he told anybody about this today. But he did. And
they're coming. I know they are.
he did good. So, it's going to be, it's I don't know how to even word it. It's strange, I guess is the best way to put it. And we're trying to navigate it and figure it out. Like if we would have did Cultivate, say in 2019, right? Like those people would have just had, they would have been drawing more than the regular shows, and like, which is why a lot of them found their way on the roster, like very quickly. And then the other ones kind of washed out. So it's just like, it's a different sort of mentality, than there was, I guess. But, I'm excited for Rudy Ray and Dr. Dan. I think that has, again, like when I saw somebody saying that they're mad that the front row sold out because they want front row for Dr. Dan.
They want those pamphlets.
I was just like, who knows, man? This could be like a 50-50 Dr. Dan versus Rudy crowd all night.
Father Daniel C. Rockingham, dude. Speaking of going forward in the card, we do have some debuts coming up. But speaking of, like we said, seeing these people debut and following their journey, as another guy, here's my guy, Austin James, the Slugger, a guy I've watched since his debut. I've always been a big AJ guy. The Slugger's my guy. It's been fun to watch him, debut and turn into this kind of all-hand player that, can kind of wrestle anyone. Now here he's going to be put in a spot against the debuting Omari Azure. He's going to, play the vet hand in this match, which I'm excited to see.
I mean, Austin James, speaking of which, foiled Rudy Ray Woods in the Rudy Rowdy's night last time.
Yeah, and they hated him.
So much so they were slapping drinks out of his hand after the show while he was just having a drink with his wife.
Just standing at the bar, they were giving him the business.
They were very upset with him, which is great because, like, some people may be like, well, they're like, this is, some fans may not like that, but I think it's great because these people fucking, like, they believe, what I mean? Like, it makes it's fun. It's fun when it's like that. It's not always fun, when, like, you have to analyze every little bit of things, like those people are just there to have fun. And
but they were too.
But boy, were they pissed at Austin James. Like, man,
I'm excited. So then that's funny too that you say, because look at them, they're on the same card now. You're going to have those Rudy Rowdies in the crowd when AJ comes out, and they're going to be, they're not just going to forget about that, So he's got that heat, resting over, which is great, Yeah, I don't know how many people Omari's going to have, but
I might have to get Austin James out there before Rudy Ray just to see if he's got any residual hatred from the last time.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
But I know we kind of skimmed over it, but you mentioned Alonzo Cruz, and for those who weren't in Youngstown, Tyler Breeze unfortunately had an emergency and he had to pull off last minute, and we're going over potential ideas and like who can we get anybody, this and that, and we're also looking at the the weather and like I reached out to a couple people, but it's like, it's flights and there's flight issues. There's all kinds of stuff. And, we're down to the wire if it can even happen anyway.
Yeah.
And, we looked at Alonzo Cruz and, we said, okay, like, hey, here's you're just here, he's just there doing, the duties of a student, when they're not booked. And, I asked him, I said, do you have your stuff? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you're getting an opportunity tonight, and you're going to be the replacement for Tyler Breeze, which was a crazy thing to say. But, I thought he did very well.
Yeah.
Some people are very high on him after that performance against Wes Barkley. There's a lot of people who, really see something in him now. I'm not going to say I'm one of those people just yet. I mean, I see that there's a lot of raw potential there. Mm-hmm. But there are some people that are like, this guy could be the guy pretty soon, if he continues to develop. And, that's what's going to be interesting, about him, going up against Chuck Stone, somebody who's been, in the main event scene for such a long time. He did well against Wes. Let's put him in there with a different style and Chuck Stone, and give him another test. And that's really also what it's all about, because if you look around at the landscape of wrestling right now, there's a lot of people under contracts that are not available, and it's probably going to be less and less as time goes on that big name people are available to book. So we really have to establish within our own system, those people who can raise people up to their level and teach them. And, it truly is kind of like a, passing down knowledge sort of situation. Rapidly, it's becoming that at this point.
Yeah.
So, like, that is the benefit of Cultivate as well, is, giving somebody like Alonzo Cruz, who I think a lot of people see a lot of raw potential in, putting him in there with Chuck Stone and seeing, what they can come up with.
Yeah, I think you got to give Wes his flowers too on that Alonzo Cruz match, because it shows how far he's come and what kind of worker he has become and turned into now these days, where, he had his mind made up and he was prepared all week and all month for a match with Tyler Breeze. Excuse me, sorry, I had to cough real quick. He had a match with Tyler Breeze in his mind, and then he comes in with a guy like Alonzo Cruz who, all week he's probably thinking, Tyler Breeze is going to be the guy, calling things and kind of following along, and he's going to be learning from and, open to, stuff. Now it's the other way around. You got a guy who's a little bit greener than Alonzo, so you got Wes kind of taking charge, and I think it's, it's a testament to how well Wes is doing these days as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was, that
because it was a great match, great match.
Right, and it allowed Wes to, obviously he was preparing for something completely different. Obviously he was over the moon excited to be getting a singles match with Tyler Breeze. And, that speaks to the level of professional that Wes is, because, he didn't go like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, I don't, who can you get for me? He was just like, yeah, let's do it, and he went out there and he worked very hard, and he worked almost to his detriment to help establish Alonzo Cruz, and
yeah,
that's just like, that's just kind of next level sort of way of thinking, because, I could easily see how somebody could be so extremely disappointed that this match had been taken away from him for, reasons out of everybody's control, something he was very much looking forward to, and kind of go out there and half speed it and, just like whatever. And he didn't do that, so you're right. Wes does deserve his flowers for that, because it did help, get Alonzo Cruz, I don't know if it got him over yet, but it helped continue to establish him in front of, not only the AIW crowd, but like kind of the weird WWE non-AIW crowd that you get in the Youngstown area. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you get kind of this mishmash combination, when we go out there. So it definitely just helped establish him in front of all sorts of new faces outside of, before all he really did was cultivate, so again, this Friday is another test for him with Chuck, and we can see what kind of Chuck can bring out of him. But you're right, Wes does deserve his flowers for that performance, and just the context of that performance of having that Tyler Breeze match canceled on day of, and diving in with a student who's had a match, head first, as opposed to going like, oh, this sucks, like what else, who else can you get? He was just like, no, let's do it, this sounds great. Like and Wes has taken on a role at the school, so he was also excited to help in that way too, help work with one of the new students. And you're right, like that part of it shouldn't have been glazed over. Wes definitely deserved some credit for getting in there with Alonzo, Cruz, and Youngstown.
Yeah. I mean, he's not on this card, obviously, but when we brought up Alonzo, and like I said, I do see a super high upside in that. But real quick, just wanted to put over my guy Maserati on that one, because I thought that was a great match, and it just had, like I said, it had so much with it with the Tyler Breeze. He was so locked in for that, but he just handled it in such a professional way. I just had to give it up for him. But going forward in the card, we have another debut going on. We have another student coming out of the academy. This time, it's going to be the director Derek Dillinger with Katie Arquette taking on the newly debuting MJ Maverick.
The Smoke Jumper. MJ
Smoke
Maverick.
Jumper, okay.
You think that's a good name?
I'm curious what it means, that's for sure.
I don't know, but you got to call him the Smoke Jumper.
Smoke Jumper, dude. All right. I'm excited to see what that means this Friday, that's for sure. I will definitely be paying attention to this match.
Yeah, MJ Maverick is somebody that I think people will be pretty excited about. Much like Omari, Azure. Am I saying that correctly?
I think if it's like the color, it's Azure. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah. So I think both of them, for different reasons, bring a lot of exciting things to the table, which, I can't hype them up too much, because I like when people kind of walk in with a blank slate, right? Like no expectation, but both are exciting performers in different ways, and I think that I think that even if we get some regular AIW fans there on Friday, I think they'll be impressed with both of these guys. I'm going to say that.
I'm excited. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't go up to the school and whatnot, so I don't know much about any of the students ever until they debut. So I'm excited for these two. It's fun, I think the Cultivate was a cool way to do the debuts this year, because typically in the past we've done, the Fresh Meat shows over the J-Lit weekend, and this year we've kind of opted and changed the schedule, and we're doing these Cultivate shows, and I think this is a cool way, to bring these people in and bring them into the fold. This show is really exciting. Like you said, we didn't talk too much about the match, but we do have Heath coming in, WWE Heath, taking on Tyler Jordan, a guy who's been having tons of tests and a lot of stuff going on in AIW, big time, motion in AIW, and this time he's going to get in there and mix it up with the next WWE guy.
Yeah, and I think, this was, Tyler Jordan obviously coming off of that tryout, which still none of us know if he's going to be hired or not, or, how it went. He doesn't expose too much, so.
Still hasn't told anyone.
Yeah, he keeps it close to the vest. Maybe Nipsey knows, I don't know. But, maybe this is the last time you can see Tyler Jordan, this Friday.
Never know.
But, March 1st is right around the corner. But, it's just like, what can prepare you more for a potential career in the WWE than getting in there with a guy that was there for as long as Heath was? And, that is another benefit of Cultivate, is you can do something like this. And, Tyler Jordan, while more established than, most of the people on this card, is far less established and experienced than Heath, so another great learning opportunity for somebody like him to get in there with somebody the caliber of Heath and kind of, bring that different level out of him. You know, it's like being a independent wrestler, being an AIW wrestler, being, you know, all that stuff is so much different than the expectation of being a WWE wrestler and a performer like that. There's so much difference and nuance to it, that it's going to be probably a crazy learning experience for Tyler Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's something that, you know, it's completely beneficial. You know, he's been getting in there with, like you said, guys in AIW, but that'll be nothing compared to a guy like, you know, Heath, who spent so many years in the WWE. It's just so beneficial. These guys just have so much to teach. It seems like you have a great eye for picking and choosing these guys who to bring in, because almost everyone that seems like you bring in of this style, like an ex-WWE or something like that, you know, the first time we bring them in, if they're cool, you bring them back several times. You try to make some of these names. I mean, you look at the names that are technically AIW semi-regulars, and guys like Paul London, Tyler Breeze, Heath, you know, PK. You know, there's so many names that come in and are just so beneficial to these roster members that it's crazy how, you know, it's just...
Yeah, I think that's something maybe that the people that have come up through the AIW system take for granted and don't realize that that's not like a thing at different schools. You know, like you don't get that level of knowledge at your disposal a lot of times. And, you know, that's the one thing that I think like frustrates me sometimes that about our school is like,
yeah,
I am investing so much more beyond like what they are doing as paying as wrestling students to get like real deal world like experienced talents around them available to them, you know, for a lot of the times working with them, you know, people who've come through the AIW Academy, you know, Tyler Jordan came through the AIW Academy working with Heath. There's countless examples of, you know, somebody that's come through the AIW system, come through the school, the academy, working with the ex-WWE or AEW people or whatever. And, you know, getting that experience. I don't think like, what I don't think people realize is like, you know, sometimes you're not getting that opportunity because you're the best for the match. It's because you went to the AIW Academy, and this is going to help you learn and hopefully raise you up a level.
Yeah, I mean, you even said that Sam wrestling Dijak was like a pinpoint in his career of where he kind of really turned a lot of things on, and kind of Dijak told him some stuff and showed him some things that kind of really changed things a lot for Sam and really kind of changed his trajectory. And I mean, you look at a guy like AJ as well, you know, since that Heath match back at Penguin City, I think that was a turning point for AJ where he really started to turn things on. I think these opportunities that you give these guys with these WWE names is so beneficial, and these students don't understand that, like you said, this isn't happening at other schools. You're not going to another school down the road and they're putting you in with Heath or, you know, Tyler Breeze. Like, it's just not happening.
Or you know, how many people Cardona worked with, or you know, there's all sorts of different examples of it. But you know, again, like, you know, I talked about how this show Cultivate Friday is like a matchmaking exercise, right? Like, I could easily do that with all the AIW shows, and I don't think that some of the people that are now kind of regular members of the roster realize that, like, you weren't the best person for that opportunity at that time if I was going at it from a matchmaking mentality of, like, who versus who's going to give me the best match here, right? Like, I don't think we land on what we actually did 9 times out of 10 if that's my mentality. But my mentality is investing in the people that came through the AIW Academy, investing in these talents who cost far more than probably their entire tuition, some of them, you know, and in putting them in the ring with them, you know, to stand across from somebody that they watched on television or whatever, getting that one-on-one time, getting that experience of how how they call a match, how they work a match, what it's like in there with them. Like, so many little things are learned that way that, I don't think a lot of them realize that, like, whatever they invested in their career was probably spent in one match that they got. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. I mean, another example, perfect example, one I'm super excited for to see what's going to be like down the road. Eric Taylor getting in there with Mike Santana at the last match. I mean, that match, there was a couple things we could talk about in that match, specifically when, I give time sometimes to the ref. There was a point in the match where they were getting close to the end. As I'm giving times, you said, "Shut up! Stop giving him times." I went, "Oh, okay." Like, just stop giving him. We're like, "Yeah, just." He's got it. Just let him go.
I believe I said, "Don't pick up that fucking walkie-talkie again." Shut
up. But yeah, so I said, okay, it was a learning moment for me, obviously. And then we just sit there and we watch this match, and those two.
And what happens after that point? They go for like 5 fucking super hard minutes, and you're telling them like, "Okay, 2 minutes to go," and I go, "Absolutely not."
Yeah. I mean, in my defense, I simply just do what I'm told. I'm supposed to give these time, so and so. But that's why I love when you're back there, because I haven't been around forever, nowhere near as long as you guys have. So I'm always trying to pick up and learn things like that, the nuances of it. And that was a beautiful example of it, because, I mean, literally seconds after you said that was then they hit that one move. I forget what it was, but like right from that point, you're like, here we go. And they did something else. You go, look, now they're cooking. And like you said, they just went for another 5 or 6 minutes, and it was just nasty. Like, the end of that match was so good. And that was the point I'm trying to make with Eric, what he learned and what he picked up in that match. Another guy who's got such, incredible potential in this business, to now he's got the learnings of TNA heavyweight champion Mike Santana. Like, if you haven't seen that end of that match, go back and watch that show on our Patreon or YouTube, because the Eric Taylor Mike Santana match was out of control.
Yeah, and I mean, you could tell that what had happened, as I'm watching it, is like he did some fucking around with the crowd and things like that, and like he was feeling. Mike Santana was not on TV mode. Like, he's feeling the indie crowd. He was chanting and doing different things and kind of fucking with the Duke a little bit, and but the clock's running. You know what I mean? And like, he's so used to hard TV time, he's having a little bit of fun out there before they got into it. So by the time they got into it, like, really we're going to get into the meat of it. You're like 1 minute left, and I was like, fucking put that down.
we were at 2 to go. Just and like I said, in my defense, I'm just doing my job. But it is a learning moment, and something I try to take serious. I take everything back there serious. There's a lot of nuance to it, and it's a lot of moving parts back there. So I'm always trying to take everything in and understand and learn back there.
Yeah, and I mean,
that was a great moment.
And it was a good moment for again, like Eric Taylor. Again, whatever Eric Taylor paid to train was probably spent on that match. You know what I mean? And there's numerous other instances of Eric Taylor getting in there with a name level talent. You could say that about a lot of people, right? Like, I don't think that they get that their investment, if they really dedicate. And this kind of goes to the whole purpose of Cultivate, right? And making it work and all this stuff is like, their investment into their career, I don't think they realize they get back sometimes tenfold from opportunity in being spent on, getting in there with names and things like that. Like, you can't buy that experience at a wrestling school. You know, like, you just can't do it. The real world live experience in front of a crowd with a top level talent who has television experience, you can't be in that situation. Like you said, Mike Santana, no matter what your views are on TNA are irrelevant. He's the world champion of a wrestling company that is on national cable television weekly. You know, like, again, you're not getting that just walking out of wrestling school. Things like that are earned, and again, that is probably far more than has been invested in, Eric Taylor's entire career on his end as far as a financial investment or whatever, if we went dollar for dollar, like what Eric Taylor has gotten back from his investment in opponents through AIW, it's probably 10x. I would say, if you looked at some of the people that he's been in there and been able to work with, and there's numerous other examples of that, and I think that's the thing that the current AIW students don't realize. I know some of the veteran students are trying to get that point across, and it's just like, this stuff doesn't happen everywhere. You have to work hard, and if you work hard, things come your way and you get these great experiences. Think about when Sam Holloway worked with Matt Cardona. He's like months into his career. Maybe a year, but I like very, very early. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different, just situations like that. Or,
is that pre-beard, Sam?
Oh yeah. So was Dijak was pre-beard Sam.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to go back and look at now, but a lot of these, and we try to mix it up, like there's different, four ways or something, you know what I mean? Like, Tyler Jordan and Wes Barkley were both in there with Alec Price and Tyler Jordan a couple months ago, or Tyler Breeze a couple months ago. Rather, now Alec Price is on AEW. He's on television. He's doing all this stuff. There's just so many different scenarios. If you go back through, especially since we started the school, like there was one match from the first class where like it's just this giant tag match with like Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae.
Wasn't it like teams or whatever? Team Johnny and Team Tommaso?
Team Candice.
Team Candice, sorry. Okay, yeah.
So like, but I mean, there's so many examples of, or people getting in there with Hornswoggle, just so many different examples of being able to work with these television type people or these people that are, have this high level of experience, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say Hornswoggle's a high level of talent, but he does have some experience.
He'd be so mad at you right now if he heard you say that.
He does have some high
6 WrestleManias, experience. He would say.
Well, I mean, that's true, though. 6 WrestleManias. How many times, if you come out of wrestling school, are you regularly around a man who has the experience of being on 6 WrestleManias? It's just stuff like that I don't think that the students realize. If you work hard, the potential of getting opportunities in there with these high level talents is there, but like, if we don't have crowds, I can't afford to do that. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, we have to get people through the doors, and then I can invest in these things, But I mean, look at Eric Taylor's like last few months. Like, it's crazy. It's like casket match with Chuck, Alec Price, Danhausen, Mike Santana. I mean, it's just it's a wild run, and then there's people like Wes who've had runs like that, or people like Sam, just different types of students, that have been in there with these, high level, performers. So, like for the students that haven't debuted yet, or the students getting ready to debut that aren't so engaged in this process, like, if you want these opportunities to come to you, they come. But, these are guys that also went above and beyond, when they were underneath or just, opening match guys, what I mean? Like, that earned that opportunity, Wes, Eric Taylor, Chuck, Sam, Shelby Wilder. Like, these are people that try to get fans through the doors, no matter where they're at on the card. Yeah. And that builds equity. And then those fans come back to support them, and it continues to build equity, and then, gets them these opportunities.
Yeah, we say it all the time. If you're a student listening to this, John Thorne kind of gives you the blueprint for what he's looking for on here all the time. And if you're a student of Absolute Intense Wrestling and you're not listening to this podcast, I don't really know what you're doing, because Thorne lays it all out for you.
I bet you there's students that don't know we even have a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Most of them. Yeah.
Some of them are just aloof.
Yes. I would agree. We do have a Freeview. I did see this at the bottom of the card. Apologies for that. But we do have a Freeview match taking place. We got Alex Melee taking on Philly Collins. Philly Collins doing a little bit of singles work again. And we got Melee Ski jumping in there in the Freeview. That should be a great one. Melee always hungry to get on these cards. PME, Philly taking some singles action here. So, trying to show what he can do as a singles performer. So that one I'm excited for as well. But overall, just a great card. I'm very excited for this.
Melee, one of the most hated guys in all of Youngstown at the last show.
He really did have some heat. They did not like him at all. Yeah. He needs to cut that hair. I think that's why they shaved that down the middle.
I've been putting some stuff on my Instagram. I got some ideas.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. I'm here for him as well. That's for sure.
I got some ideas for Melee, but also, I don't want to skip over. Philly getting into that main event spot in Youngstown. I thought he did extremely well. Kind of a out of his element, fish out of water sort of thing. But he held his own, and I thought he did extremely well. Philly is a tough critic of himself and gets in his own head about a lot of things. And I think that he did great in that situation. He didn't win, but he still came out with tremendous experience. Again, for somebody who's been a tag team pretty much his entire wrestling career, to go in there and do like a 15-ish minute main event with Sam Holloway, who does nothing but singles matches 3-4 days a week. I thought Philly did extremely well.
Yeah, it was a great match. I love Philadelphia Collins. I'm excited to see him work again on Friday. I like singles Philly. I like it. I hate to say that. I love PME. I'm a PME guy, but something about Philadelphia getting out there and working.
That music. That theme is. Is a hitter.
That's the Easy Lover, dude. He's good.
One thing I am interested to see is a little kind of inside baseball here is. Some of the locker room leaders in Youngstown took it upon themselves to kind of have an internal meeting sans me being involved. I wasn't there. I didn't speak. I don't know much about what was spoken, but I do know that
we were in the back and you kept going, I can't go out front. And they're having a meeting. I go, oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of, a internal kind of locker room sort of situation to, because I do think that, I talk about, the changes in the industry, things potentially getting cold. I do think that especially the upper tier veterans in the IW locker room right now, while, many of them are young veterans, there's not, a lot of the grizzled old mean guys back there anymore. But, some of the young veterans are stepping up, because they don't want to see this go away, and they see kind of the disconnect, which we'll get into when I answer that question that was submitted, but kind of the disconnect between the generations of classes of students, and some of the guys were wanted to kind of try to get things back on track, and I said they didn't want me there. I don't want to be there, because I just feel like, especially I'm sure listeners of the podcast probably feel like, but like sometimes I feel like people look at me like the mean boss at work, and, I'm the shitty supervisor, and, I'm just telling people to do get their work done, and they're like, fuck, I just want to go home. And,
we need it. We need you though. We need the mean boss. It's got to keep everybody in line.
I just don't know that tough talk works with the younger generation anymore, and it just doesn't click. And
it really doesn't.
I think that good on some of the veterans in the locker room that wanted to take it upon themselves to kind of have an open discussion, open forum, open lines of communication without me, you know what I mean? Like, you know, allowing them to kind of, you know, create like a, you know, maybe like a more comfortable, like, well, you know, I don't like this, or this person did this, or whatever it is, you know, just kind of trying to bring that locker room back together a little bit. Because, you know, we even see it at the after parties. There's six people go to every after party, and then, like, you know, everybody else kind of goes wherever they go. So it's like, you know, just trying to bring kind of that connective tissue back to the AW locker room like it was before. Kind of, you know, there's, you know, people kind of broke off in all these little cliques, and, you know, maybe it's based on like, well, this class of students are over here, the next class is over here, you know what I mean? Nobody's trying to kind of be in the same room and, you know, all work together and, you know, raise everybody up to the next level. You know, so shout out to, I'm not going to name who it was, but the people that took the initiative to kind of go and, you know, fix everything and bring everybody back together. And, you know, hopefully that kind of shines through Friday at Cultivate as well.
Yeah. I show a little bit of it, not so much the meeting portion of it, but there's some stuff you can see in the new vlog that I did for Out Cold. I'm not sure when you're putting that one out, but I've been trying to get those back.
I'm going to try to get it up maybe on Patreon and the YouTube Premium tonight or tomorrow. And then
okay. You've been trying to do more of those and get, you know, more content and just try to, you know, for the fans that want to engage more stuff, but a little bit more of a, you know, a behind the scenes look. That WWE show, you know, really kind of opened my eyes to kind of what some of this stuff could be and what maybe fans do want to see some of it. So some of that was captured, like I said, not too much, you know, not too much behind the curtain, but there's some cool moments that we show in this Out Cold vlog. So if you're listening to this podcast, something like that interests you, you know, sign up for our Patreon or our premium YouTube membership, and that content will be there for you.
Yeah, I do think, you know, there is, and it goes with the fans too. You know what I mean? Like, there used to be just this total, like, everybody together sort of thing, you know, and like with the fan turnover we talked about earlier in this pod, you know, trying to get some of that back together too. You know what I mean? The after parties used to be can't miss for so many people, roster, fans, everything, and we want to try to get back to that level of just, you know, it's supposed to be fun. Everybody's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be this, you know, kind of community of people, and we want to try to figure that out. But, you know, it is also hard when nobody's coming to the shows. So,
yeah,
you know, it's like we're trying to figure it out. I don't know, you know, what the answers are. Again, you know, I blame Fortnite at this point. You know, these kids. These kids just growing up on Fortnite and don't like their pro wrestling anymore. That's, you know, that's what I think.
It's got too much damn streaming. It's all over the place. It just needs to be on USA. You turn on USA Monday at 8, and there it is.
I mean, it's just, there's just so much other stuff for people to be interested in now. You know, like, I mean, I know I'm just kind of making a joke about the Fortnite thing, but like it, you know, like TikTok, all that stuff, like it's just so much stuff sucks people in to, like, it's just like, when do you have time to sit down and discover pro wrestling anymore? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like it's a strange thing. And if, you know, and then if you want to be a fan of it, it's just so overwhelming, right? Like, you have how many WWE shows, how many AEW shows, TNA, and then, like, I turned on some fucking, I was scrolling through my TV yesterday, there's fucking some wrestling show on where Little Guido's the commissioner, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, you're like, I don't even know what this is.
It's just on TV, you know, it was on my TV. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's just, you know, it's, I don't know. I think there's just, sometimes it's just too much content. It's just like, this is like too much of a job to be a fan of this. I'm going to go watch football, you know, 18 weeks and then I'll be done, you know, like,
yeah,
it's a strange new world, but I hope that we can pull something off on Friday for Cultivate. You know, I'm not totally writing it off, but I do have my reservations on whether it will be a success or not.
Yeah. Speaking of our YouTube and our Patreon, our YouTube membership and a Patreon membership, we do take questions in our Patreon. If there's something you want to talk about on this podcast or something you want to know about, we take all questions in the Discord portion. If you join our Patreon, we'll get you in there, get you a password and all that stuff. But a couple questions in there that I wanted to go over with you, especially with the Cultivate theme, kind of what with that. This question kind of focuses on that PACT 2. If there's a second PAC, apparently. When the podcast first came out and right after Biggin's passing, it was very heavy on student stories. Are recent classes a lot more tame, he asks, with the current trends and likely a heavier reliance on local guys? Is the podcast something that can help promote them to the audience?
It's just like, again, to go back to what we've been kind of talking about, it's just the difference in personalities and I don't know, generational. I keep saying generational, but it's just a different types of personalities. Like, you'll notice, if you've been following AW for as long as we've had the Academy, I'm sure that you can see it. Like, you kind of come out of the gate with like a Brian Garson and the Kaplan, and then, you get into like the Wes Barkleys and and the Dr. Dans and the weird bodies. And, there was kind of these, like, they were personalities in themselves, and like, as, you kind of, you move along, there's a shift kind of in just, even like Tyler Jordan. I mean, I don't think I heard Tyler Jordan talk until he got that promo at the Globe Iron on Wes Barkley a couple weeks ago, like,
yeah,
they just, people are a lot more quiet, a lot more reserved, a lot less social than, some of the older classes. And I mentioned this, like, you have to give Sam Holloway credit, because even when he was living in Akron and say, we did a show in Akron and then we're all like, there's no after party, let's go to Parker Pierce's bar all the way in Parma, he would come. You know what I mean? Like, he would drive from Akron, go there, go back, trying to kind of engage with people, Same with Chuck, same with Eric. And then as you kind of move on, like Alex Melee, Zay Garcia, Vic Weiss, they're a little bit more quieter. Tyler Jordan, Nipsey Nash, they're just all more kind of reserved, quiet people. And then, again, like Rudy Ray Woods, same thing, like very, very quiet, reserved sort of people. So it's just, Alonzo Cruz, again, quiet. It's not like Kaplan, who was like, hey guys, watch me break the stick over my head. Like,
yeah. We got to get those Rudy Rowdies out to the after party, though. I feel like that could be a lot of fun, having those, that crowd out there after the show, mingling with a lot of the, the roster and stuff after the show. That could be a lot of fun.
So to like say about the podcast and getting him on the podcast, it was like, that wasn't like a by design thing. It was just, for all those years, everybody was just hanging out with everybody. So it's just like, hey, we're going here. The students would just show up and they would kind of intermingle. You know what I mean? And like at after parties and things like that, intermingle and work their way into whatever's going on. And it's just like, hey, we're gonna go podcast. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna come over. And it's just like, that doesn't happen again. And maybe, if we get back to podcasting in person again, maybe that changes, but we're getting close to that, having space to do that again. But, it's just like, even at the shows, like, people are just a lot more reserved, a lot more quiet. There's not people that are just so outgoing and like, it's just different in how people are, I guess. And so,
generational for sure, in my opinion.
It's not like, again, it wasn't by design or anything like that. It's just like Apple just came around all the time. You know what I mean? Like, people like that were just coming around, or it's just like, oh, hey, we're gonna go do an after party at Steve Guy's house. You know what I mean? Everybody's coming over there. That's just that just doesn't happen anymore. So it's hard to kind of gauge personalities and things like that, because like they're not necessarily trying to, like, I don't know if like be friends with everybody is the word, but like not trying to like fit into the equation a lot of the time. So it's just like the people that have been around for a while, they all kind of talk to each other, and then like nobody's just like, hey guys, like I'm coming to the, like Alex Maley does try, but like he's also very quiet. Like Alex Maley will come to every party and sit in the corner. He'll be at every single one, but like it's not like he's like ripping shots and like making a name for himself either. You know what I mean? Like shaving his head or anything.
Oh, we gotta get that. We gotta make it happen.
It's just the different people are just, I don't know. People are just different now. Like. And, Biggins was also such a larger than life personality. So, like, Biggins would, like, he'd pick somebody, be like, oh, like, we're going to get this person on the podcast and fuck with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just like, now it's just like, they like, this sounds crazy, but, like, I bet you there's a good percentage that don't know who I am or why I say things. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it's 100%. Like, there are people that have no idea who I am, or like, who's this guy saying all this stuff?
I think it's a lesser percentage than you think, but there's probably a couple people out there for sure.
I know it. I know it.
There's like I said, I don't go to the school, so I don't know them, but sometimes I'll see a student and I'll be like, when the fuck did this person start? Who the fuck is this person? But another question we had, getting close to the end here, another one we had, somebody asked, they know a lot of AIW talent has worked for Appalachian Championship Wrestling, ACW. Have you ever considered a more official partnership with them, or somewhere, is it somewhere that you've tried to get the newer students to work?
No, not really. I mean, Moose, the promoter, is a guy I know, like, I talk to here and there. He like has like, he kind of halfway reps agents for some people. So like, if you're ever like looking for a name or something, he can usually get their number or reach out to him or whatever. Like, he helps us facilitate the Haku deal last year. He helps from here and there. But as far as like a relationship, I don't know what that does for anybody, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, AIW has like their own kind of universe. ACW has their own universe. And I don't know that us in either direction crossing over does anything really for anybody. You know what I mean? Except for like mess up what he wants to do or mess up what we want to do. You know what I mean? Like, this is the big misconception on like, why don't more people work together? And it's just like, I have my ideas and my people, and this promoter has their ideas and their people, and like, if we're gonna combine up, it's just gonna cause him to use less of his people, and it's gonna cause me to use less of my people. You know, so like, it just like, I don't think people realize that when it comes to like working relationships, and things like that. Like, I see a lot of like indies are like, we're working with each other or whatever, and it's just like,
why?
Okay, so like, why does your local wrestler, like, what does he bring to the table to go wrestle in this state that's 7 states away from you? Like, who's paying for that? Probably the wrestler, to say that he wrestled 7 states away from where he's from. You know what I mean? And then like, it does nothing for anybody other than the wrestler says like, hey, I wrestled in California or wherever, and then like, nobody is buying a ticket to see that wrestler. Nobody is, like, it doesn't help anybody, like, it just, I think it's just silly, and people just wanting to feel more important than they are, or present themselves as more important than they are. Cause like, at the end of the day, it's fucking independent wrestling, like, we're never doing anything more than, getting a couple hundred people in a venue, essentially. Like nobody's taking over WWE or AEW at this point. So no matter how many of us team up, we're still just all hoping to get a couple hundred people. Like no matter how many different promotions are on the fucking top of the flyer, it's just it's silly. Like I think promoters are promoters because they want to present wrestling how they want to present wrestling, and how I want to do it is maybe different than how ACW wants to do it, or IWC in Pittsburgh, or a variety of the hundreds of different indies. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to do it a little different. Everybody has different goals. Everybody has different talents. Everybody has different people they work with. They have people they won't work with. Like there's so many little quirks that go into indie wrestling. It's just like working together. All it does is cause you to use less of the people that you're already working with, to use more of the people that you're not working with, that are probably 9 times out of 10 aren't going to impact your ticket sales or your draw or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else? That was the last one for question wise. Anything else you want to get to?
We had one question on Facebook, and it was any news on an Akron venue. And that is no. I mean, I haven't reached out to the Royal Palace again. I'm sure that they would have us again. I mean, it's really, kind of, if the fans want us to go back there, I don't know. People seem to be mixed on it. But as far as any other place in Akron, there's really nothing that we have found anywhere in that area that would work for us or is within the budget for us. Like there's so many factors that go into a venue. I'm sure that we could probably work something out with the Royal Palace again. But you just, I don't know. Some people seem to be very mixed on that. So I haven't reached out to do anything. And, again, we talked about it before, but we are going to take a little hiatus coming up, so it's like once we come out of that, it's going to kind of be like we're going to try to set up some things in the summer and stuff like that. And maybe that's more of like a fall thing. I don't know, to try to go back to the Akron area. Mm-hmm. But we're certainly trying to kind of spread things out. Like I said, I think we're going to take about 2 months-ish off to kind of regroup, recharge, and, I don't know, we're always kind of looking in the Akron area, or, that just greater Akron, anywhere around there, Canton, Stowe, any of that, but nothing has really popped up outside of, the Royal Palace opportunity that we had in December. Again, I'm sure we can maybe go back there, but it's really kind of how do people feel about going back there, like from a fan perspective. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind it, but, some people did, some people didn't. So it's like, I don't know. It's certainly on the table, I would think.
Yeah, I liked it, but yeah, like I said, it was from a different perspective. So,
but if anybody has connections anywhere, venues, whatever, email aiw@aiwrestling.com. We're always willing to, take a look at something. If you think it's going to work, any area in Northeast Ohio, really, we're willing to, at least run the pros and cons on it, see if it's a good fit, see if it works. We are going to go to a newish market we're working on in the summer. So, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I mean, nothing concrete as far as the Akron area is concerned.
Okay. Well, I love the Akron area, so hopefully, somebody reaches out. If you got a bar or a venue, let us know. We'd love to come down and check it out. Anything else before we get to? I'm going to try, like I said, I'm going to try to film some more stuff. If anybody sees me walking around, I got a whole big list of like 60 different questions to ask for content for fans. So I'm going to be walking around asking a lot of those questions that Thorne sent me, just trying to get some fan content. So if you see me walking around with the GoPro, yell my name. I'll come over. We'll have a conversation. Anything else before we get out of here? Gauntlet
No.
on the 20th, March 20th. Get your tickets for Gauntlet. We got Dolph Ziggler coming back.
Yeah, I mean, again, I posted on social media I would like Friday and I would like Gauntlet to be packed before we head into this hiatus. I mean, Gauntlet is, that's a big one. Obviously, bringing Nick Nemeth to the Cleveland area, I hope that we impact that place. I know the Globe is working on adding more premium seating options. We're hopeful to get that added to this map and this show. Tickets are already on sale, but we're hoping that they can make the adjustments to add additional seating because, we do realize that, when it gets down to like, the premium seats are gone, like some people are like, I don't know about, risking it and standing. So we're trying to get more seating added. We did design a new seating map. I did approve it. I think they're just waiting for it to go through the various corporate, hoops and all those things. But we are working on that. Somebody did mistakenly think that we were going back to Youngstown in June today. That is not accurate. We will not be going back to Youngstown for a June show this year. We're going to go back in the fall, in October, it looks like. So, yeah, I don't know. Anything else? Anything else you think I got to cover?
No, I think we got everything. We've been at it for quite a while tonight, so I think we got everything. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, get your tickets for this Friday. We need to pack the place. I will say this. You need to be at the building on Friday. It is going to be a great show. If you are an AIW regular or a newer AIW fan and you're thinking about skipping it, I promise you will wake up Saturday morning with a heart full of regret. So we'll see you guys Friday. Everybody get those tickets. Get some general admission tickets if you got to. I think premium seating's gone, but plenty of great sight lines in the Roxy. Not a bad seat in there for general admission. Great bar. They got plenty of, the food is incredible at Roxy. Great venue. All kinds of free parking. So everybody get your tickets. We'll see you out this Friday for Cultivate 2 at the Roxy at Mahall's. We'll see everybody this Friday. Thanks.
You're going to be upset on Saturday.
Yeah.